I printed out the information from the manual and the EPC. I got the part number off of my car, but they're original to the car and that's been superseded twice. This is the current part numbers here. There is a difference between the left and the right, but they should be changed in pairs anyways. I bought a limb forder, and there's different manufacturers of that part. The manual lists the Newton meters. The wishbone's held on with 4 8mm bolts, and they're torqued down to 50 Newton meters. The ball joint connects to the spindle with a bolt, and that's 125 Newton meters. And the wishbone is shipped flat, and you have to pre-tension it, and there's a bolt running through there, and that's 120 Newton meters. The distance, once that's sprung, is about 3 inches, so I had to take a floor jack and jack up the lower control arm to get the spindle even close to that. And then you got to take a hand and push that down together while you're trying to get the bolt through. And that has to seat perfectly, otherwise it won't notch in. So that's the only tricky part there, really. And maybe getting the angle correct. It's 63 millimeters. I mean, it's not hard to do. You just get that flat, get a T-square, and from the back of the ball joint to the center of that, it should be 63 millimeters. I measured my old part and it was 62. And I guess you could just take your old part, line it up with the new part, and use that as a guide, but that's about it, really. Other than that, it's a pretty easy job. First thing I need to do is to remove this 19mm bolt right here, and then I insert a large screwdriver into that slot, kind of tap it in, and then at the same time hit the back of the ball joint straight up, and then that should pop out. And then after that, there's just 4 8mm bolts, one in each corner, and those come out, and then the whole thing just drops straight down. Okay, I've got a 19mm wrench for the back, 19mm socket for the front on a breaker bar. There. I had these soaking in penetrating oil. Off easy. There we go. Lots of blue Loctite on there. I'm going to insert this big screwdriver. I'm going to just tap it a little bit. I can see it move right there. Actually, I can see the ball joint popping up too. So now I'm going to just tap the underside of the control arm. There it goes. I can feel the pressure. That's that torque. It's real springy. That's what holds it up. I've got an 8mm hex on a socket. I'm going to tap it in slightly. There we go. That one. There we go. And it's got the whole thing out. There's just tons of blue Loctite on there. I'm going to see if I can clean that out with something. And that should be good. Okay, the old control arm will stay up by itself because it's torqued down to 120 Newton meters. When you buy them new, there's just no tension in there because these 19mm bolts and this 18mm nut has to be tightened down. So I'm going to do that next. There we go. Okay, the bottom of these are rounded out, so to get the precise measurement, you can't if it's wobbling around like that. So there is one flat part here. I put that on the lip of the bench, and then I just clamp it down like that, and then they'll stay put. Okay, I use the old one as a guide to get a rough angle, I can see this one's back too far, so I'll just move it and then tighten it until I get it visually looking like the other one. Well, let's say see figure A, millimeter 63, and then here's the illustration, and they're keeping the bottom flat, and A is the distance from the back of the ball joint to the outside barrel on the back, and that's supposed to be 63 millimeters. Okay, I measured 63 millimeters, and I put that green tape on this ruler so I can lay it on the barrel, and I can see this is off a lot. It's got to come way back to there, so I just grab the arm and move it back a little bit at a time. That's perfect right there. So I'm going to lock this down. Check it one more time. Perfect. Okay, I got it set to 120 Newton meters, and now I'm going to torque this down. Got the breaker bar in the back, and I gotta really lean into that. There we go. Okay. Alright, I'm getting ready to install the upper control arm. Goes up in there. I already got everything cleaned out in there. All the threads were cleaned out and spray oiled. I'm using blue Loctite on the 8mm, and I got an 8mm socket. Okay, I got all the 8mm hexes in, and that was difficult getting them to line up. I had to keep them all almost completely off, real loose, go back and forth, and I got them tightened down. The tension feels good. You can see the spindle where the ball joint's got to go way down in there, the stem, so that's like 3 inches. I got to bring that together because I had to really jack this thing up just to get them that close. I'm going to be using the screwdriver to spread that gap apart and then try and push the ball joint down, and then while jacking it up yet some more. Okay, seat it now, and the point of the bolt goes forward. Okay, I removed the screwdriver in there so that the bolt can get through, but this has to be seated perfectly or it'll hit it like that. There we go. Okay, it came all the way through. I'm going to add just a little bit more blue Loctite on the nut end. And tighten that up so it's kind of snug. Yep, that's perfect. Okay, now I'm going to torque down the 4 8mm hexes to 50 Newton meters. Now I torque down the nut on the spindle to 125 Newton meters. There we go. Okay, this side's done. Got everything torqued down. Okay, well that looks good. Got everything torqued down in the back, and I'm done.